What's up, everybody? It's Greg Birch with Delta Financial, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about making you a better person in your life and in your business with coaching on sales, leadership, mindset, marketing, everything under the sun when it comes to being an entrepreneur. And we bring home guest speakers. Today, we got a panel podcast, a really special message that we're going to bring to all of you. I got with me Mr. Kevin Vega, the COO of Delta Financial, Mr. Joey Watkins, the Director of Agency Development, and Mr. Zach Allen, the Director of Leads. How you guys doing?
Doing good, man. How are you guys doing?
Good, gentlemen. Happy Friday.
What we decided we want to talk about today, last week we had a really awesome leadership training. And we brought on Mr. Brian Williamson from Giant, who is he's got a lot of experience in leadership development and leadership training. And something that we had some really good conversations with the agents that were on that training call. And essentially what it was the difference, the push and the pull of leadership. Okay. Because you have directive or what's also called coercive leadership. And that's basically just coming in and telling people, hey, you got to do this, right? Do this, do this, do this, do this. And then you have a more supportive leadership. And the directive, the coercive is more of a push, right? You're pushing them to get something done. Whereas a supportive leadership is more of asking questions, understanding where they're at, and then guiding them, almost mentoring or coaching them towards a solution where you're pulling them a little bit, but they're pushing forward based on the coaching that you're giving them. And it was a fantastic conversation and training. If you are interested in watching it, you can check out our Vimeo, or you can also go to the website, the Delta Financial Life website. It's on there. But I want to open it up to all of you guys. You know, there were some really good comments and questions that took place during that training. So who wants to start? Not all of you guys will. I want, you know.
Well, what comment or question stood out to you the most?
You know, it comes down to, for me, it came down to the idea of, oh, well, we're 1099, which is always, that is a challenge to overcome in any kind of sales environment where you're 1099 and it's full commission. And it was like, well, the 1099, I can't make him do anything. And so that to me is kind of a throwaway, like, whatever, like I can't do this. Like I can tell them, but like I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make him drink, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And leadership in essence is influence, just like sales is influence. And it's getting people to do things they wouldn't normally do, right? It's getting them to believe in the processes, to believe in themselves. And if you can't actually get them to act, then you're not leading them, regardless. Like if you can't get somebody to do something that they wouldn't normally do, or if they're already doing it and you're not influencing that at all, then you're not really a leader. You're not leading them. So this is that concept of like, how do you push and pull? How do you manage the ebb and flow, the push and pull of an agent to get them to take action?
Inspiration.
So
you can influence people, right? But really getting people to activate and to move, they have to be inspired. You know, social media is permeated with the concept of motivation. You have motivational speakers, motivational channels. It's not necessarily about motivation. It's about inspiration. How do you inspire people to do things that are even often so far apart from the norm that they've done their entire lives? You talk about transitioning away from a W-2 mindset to a 1099 mindset. People have to be in control of their own lives, but they have to be inspired and to come up with that realization that they are 100% in control of their lives, their destinies, and their results.
And you're right. But the fascinating thing is there was one of the questions in there, I think Josh Ryan might have asked was, you know, what is the answer to get everybody to act? And that's the problem. There is no right answer, right? Everybody has a different personality. Everybody has different things that motivate them. Some people need to be pushed, some people need to be pulled. It's all based on your life experiences, right? You never know which direction, but that's where the power of the relationships come in, and you have to get to know each individual and what drives them. It also helps when they know themselves, but a lot of people really don't know themselves. They've just gone through life. They don't really know what pushes them. And they actually, one of my agents spoke up and we were talking back and forth. It took me a little while to get used to her. She is one that wants to know every single little detail about everything before she acts. And at first it was kind of annoying because I'm not like that. Tell me what I need to do, I'm going to get it done. But once you take a step back and you realize where she's coming from and that's what she needs, and you give it to her and you see her do what she's supposed to do, it's incredible. But that's one of the challenges of a leader, is it's not always what works for you. Something that works for me is not necessarily going to work for Joey or Greg or Kevin. It's understanding the different personalities and being able to work within everybody. That's the challenge.
I think my piece is, and it's funny how we're literally stair stepping because we're all like, so like-minded. So both of those pieces, and also too, I think it's, one thing that I really work with my team is internal versus external motivation, right? What is yours? What do you think drives you? Are you more internal or external? And I asked that question. It's a loaded question because, to be honest, it's both. Right. And so you look at both sides, but I think the third caveat to add to what you guys just stated is leadership, leading by example. So, it's when you take action and you have, as an agent, it was just sales. It was dials, connections, building rapport, relationships, and, closing deals, getting referrals, expanding from that point and so forth. But as an agency owner, having all these other different pieces, these moving parts, keeping them accountable, setting standards and parameters, but also doing all that and continuing to sell as an agent as well, that really can bring, really tie into that inspiration piece. And that's something that, you guys have definitely helped me on that standpoint, because, there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things to do, but you can either make excuses or you can get results, and so, leading from the front, I used to disagree with that phrase because I've always felt like, we're in this together. We should be arm in arm. But at the same time, leading from the front, as time has gone on for me, really comes from leading by example. And I think that's another big piece that kind of goes with, what you guys said.
I believe it's, to kind of cap all this off, it is a level of challenge, it's kind of like, for me, I'm a very big, the way my leadership is, which I've had to kind of check that a little bit, is it's very much like, go, and challenging people to step up to the plate. Right. And because I know that what I'm doing, I'm not special. Anyone's capable of doing what I'm doing, but it's going to take a level of commitment. It's going to take a level of action daily, and I can show them the path, and I do show the path, but it's just whether or not you're willing to do that work. Zach and I recorded a podcast and it was talk about choose your hard. It really is that, like, hey, do you want to choose this hard where you're going to live this way and you're going to have these accomplishments, but you're going to do work. You're going to, it's going to be sacrifice. Or do you want to choose the hard where you have an easy life, you don't really do much, but you're poor, you are living paycheck to paycheck, you are you're struggling to survive, so it's just, what do you want? And I'm very much of a realist. I don't believe in motivation. I've seen false motivation. Kevin and I both have in the military, that fake motivation where you just act motivated until you get into it and you do the job. And then at the end, and what that false motivation does is it almost like creates a fake sense of happiness, like it's almost a sarcastic sense of happiness, because you're like, oh yep, I'm super motivated to do this. And you say it just like that, and everyone jokes about it, but you still get the job done. And at the end, everyone kind of comes together in this plan, and all these moving pieces come together to accomplish something great. And you look back and you're like, you know what, that actually wasn't that bad. And so there's this sense of accomplishment at the end that the next time you do it, you don't have to use that false sense of motivation. You understand when there's a mission to be done and you all work together and you accomplish something great together, the sense of accomplishment you will get on the tail end. And it becomes easier and easier. Sometimes you have to kind of lean into that false motivation, or that, hey, look at Instagram, look at your Facebook and go through stories and see what people are posting. And there's not there's not a lack of somebody online that's trying to hawk their wares or sell their services and then motivate you through whatever they accomplished in their life. And then you pay them as a coach or whatever. That you can find that very easily. But ultimately it comes from you doing the work daily. Like, I'm not motivated every single day to wake up and get the job done, to go to the gym, to yesterday I went to go see Avatar Way of Water with the kids. Right. And we're sitting in the theater. We went at like a 10 o'clock a.m. showing. We're super early. I'm on an OMAD diet. I eat once a day. Right. I had to sit there and watch my kids eat popcorn and candy and drink. And all I had was a water
for 3 hours.
Dude, for 3 hours. And there was still popcorn left over. And I'm sitting there looking at it. And I wanted to eat some of that popcorn so bad. It smelled so good. It smelled so good. And I love popcorn, man. I love carbs. And I just sat there and was just like, nope, not doing it, because it's going to go against my diet. Is that hard for me? Yeah, that's hard for me. It's not as hard as it used to be. I used to give into that stuff. And I used to be like, oh, yeah, you know what? I'll just work a little bit harder. I would compromise and I would make excuses, right? But over time, when I just sucked it up, guess what? I chose my hard, and I had a very fulfilling, very healthy meal when my feeding window opened up at 6 p.m. So, it's all about just doing those daily actions. And over time, when you do those actions, you will build a confidence and a sense of accomplishment within yourself that you start to just, man, like you know that you can accomplish anything, right? And it's, how do we get agents to get to that point, right? And it's a constant push and pull. We'll have to motivate or inspire them, and we'll have to tell them what to do, we'll have to challenge them a little bit, but then we also have to have those deep questions where, you had an agent, Joey, that came on and was like, hey, I can't get my agents to come on to the trainings. And it's like, well, okay, your agents also aren't writing. Okay. So maybe we change the conversation of like, what are you saying to them? Right. Mm-hmm. So if you're just coming on and say, hey, you should really come on, like, that only goes so far. Okay. And maybe that tool that you're using out of your toolkit, out of your toolbox, maybe that tool isn't working. And if it doesn't work after a while, you know what you do? Hey, let's go ahead and do something. Let's apply something else to this in order to get this rolling. Right. And maybe it's going to be having a good conversation with them and challenging them to come to a meeting for, go attend trainings and set that standard. Yeah, we're 1099, but this is how we do things. This is how you find success. And right now, do you have success in the business? The answer is no. Yeah. Right. So how do we take you from where you're not having success to where you do have success? Here's the pathway.
Engagement.
Take it if you like. But I want to challenge you to do that. And it's having those conversations with them and asking, and they almost have to come to the realization themselves, like, you know what? Yeah. Cause that builds that commitment piece versus the compliance. So.
Agreed, for sure.
How are you, Joey, doing that going forward?
Asking more questions. That's been a big one. Because like Zach spoke about earlier, it's, everybody's going to have different things that motivate them. Everybody's going to have a different style of, leadership that they would prefer. I got one agent that, I've personally been buddies with for, I'd say 12, 13 years. He wants me to stay on his ass. And he asks me for that. He's like, hold me accountable, micromanage the hell out of me, do this, this, and this, but I'll let you know when I'm comfortable and you can back off. So for him, we address that, daily. Others, they're like, but initially when I meet a new agent, one of the main questions I ask is like, okay, so there's typically two types of people that come into this industry that are new. All right. Are you somebody that wants to be coddled, have your hand held, walk through the mud with you, or you're internally motivated, you feel confident, you're going to jump out there, fall on your face, and you'll let me know when you need help? They always say the second one, but they always end up being the first one, because you got to fail forward. Yes. But the whole point is, I recorded a team chat, Kevin, you stole my day today, but I recorded a team chat, and the precipice of it was, utilizing the resources that are at your disposal. There's so many people in the industry that don't, and we have so many more resources than most, right? And so getting an agent to be inspired to not only engage and act, but also lean on their upline, on their university, their recordings. There's so much. We can put all the ammo we want into the gun, but if they don't pull the trigger, then we're still in the same spot. So we're doing our due diligence on our end to lead correctly, give the resources we have, but at the end of the day, they do have to pull the trigger and act. And there's a million analogies. You leave the water they can't drink, but they have to want it just as bad as we want it for them. And bridging that gap between the two, I really think is, just getting to know people on a one-on-one basis, and, really taking that one agent at a time approach. I personally have been doing that. I've been doing 3 or 4 at a time just to maximize time, but still having that one-on-one relationship within that group. It's really, turned an outlook of compliance and commitment for sure.
Yeah.
For me, I like to, when an agent's coming on board, that's the power of the counseling forums, right? You're able to find out what that agent's goals are, and you can have that conversation of how they want to be led, right? Do they want daily check-ins? Is that what that agent needs? Is the, once a week, what are they looking for? Overall goal, when do they need to be checked in? Do you need to really push this agent? And, they tell you one thing. All right, cool. We're going to reassess in 30 days. Did you meet your goals? Are you meeting them? All right. So clearly this isn't working. Let's try something else. Having it on a counseling forum to see what that agent is looking for and document it, because me personally, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm, I have X amount of number of agents in my agency, I forget where we're at now. I tend to forget who said what, but when it's documented on paper, we can pull it back up. The agent has it too. And hey, this is what we discussed. Are you meeting that? Let's make adjustments. But it's the power in the communication. That's what it really comes down to. It's all about clear and concise communication.
I'd almost challenge and say, for every new agent coming on board, whether they want to have a daily check-in or not, you should. And be like, hey, look, for the first 30 days, I'm going to do a daily check-in just to make sure that you're on track to meet your goals and to help and assess and kind of guide along the way. After the first 30 days, we will reassess if we're going to still do a daily check-in, if that's what you want to do, or if I'm going to pull back and maybe do like a twice a week check-in or a weekly check-in or something like that. But it sets the right standard going forward. So I would challenge you to be like, for every new agent to do it that way.
Right.
Because it gets them also used to being held accountable.
Right.
So
to what they say. I would agree.
Yeah. Kevin, what's your thoughts on all this?
That it all leads to that inspiration piece, man. Daily check-ins. Like, I was honestly just thinking about what Joey had said, that everything that we're saying is building off one another, because it all is part of that bigger picture. Being able to get an agent out of their own way to fulfill the goals that they have set out for themselves. We hear all the time in this industry, man, I have this goal. I want to be a builder. I want to have this agency, and I expect to do it within an unreasonably short amount of time. And it goes into what you guys were talking about, doing these daily check-ins for the first 30 days and then making adjustments after. A lot of people don't understand the amount of time that it takes to get into the groove of doing things. You come into this industry, into this organization, expecting a result within 30 days. Well, they don't realize the amount of work that has to go into it. So when you do these daily check-ins and you come to find out, oh, well, they're not really doing that daily activities that you were talking about, Greg, in order to get those results. So it all fits in together, and we constantly put out this message and talk about these things in the Discord, in our weekly trainings. Like, I can't say off the top of my head how many times we talked about all these things separately and together across the last year we've been together, and it's clicked with so many people. Case in point, the whole leading by example thing that Joey had talked about and the daily activities that you had spoken about. How many people have been inspired to do 75 hard and really change their mindset, change their lives? And it's always one person at a time.
Yeah.
Right. Over the course of the last year, you can name every single person that's had that impact. Right. Because you had to put together that video to submit for the Andy Frisella thing.
Yeah.
And people were sending it. And it was just awesome to see the results at the end. But it does take the daily activities, the hard work over time. And it's not going to be 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. Hell, it's not even going to happen within a year. But when you look back a year later and you've done those things, those daily activities for 12 months straight, and you look back, it's then you're going to see, oh my God, this is a complete transformation from who I was. It's a whole paradigm shift. And that's when you start to see the magic happen.
Yeah. No, you're
It's a
absolutely right.
long-term commitment. So
And sometimes change happens slowly. One of the things that I think is, and I heard this from Ed Milet, is that as a leader, you have to get used to saying the same thing over and over and over again with the same enthusiasm. Like, you can't get tired. You're gonna have to repetitively tell people, and maybe find another way to say it, but say it with the same enthusiasm without getting frustrated. Because sometimes it takes somebody to hear the same message, 2, 3, 5, 10 times before it clicks, where they're like, you know what, I am gonna try this. I'm looking over here and seeing all these people having success that are doing it. Let me go ahead and see what this is all about. It happened to me, right? That's how I got, because I wasn't very good when I first started insurance. And I think that everyone has a learning curve. And it took for me to kind of get humbled and fall on my face to look over and see what other top producers were doing, and being like, I'm just going to follow that and do exactly what they do, and not ask questions, not try to find a shortcut, not try to find the cheat code. And as a leader, when you're doing this push and pull, you are doing you're leading by example. You're showing these things, and sometimes it's one agent at a time, sometimes it's many agents at a time that you're inspiring, that you're pulling towards you and getting them to push, right? It's a patience game, and you cannot get frustrated. You never know what message or action or circumstance might change someone's perspective, to where it's almost like it changes the lens in which they see things, and then they say, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah, it also goes back as leaders, how willing are you to invest that time and energy into developing somebody? A prime example that I have of this is when I just graduated captain's career course, and I was going to be a primary staff officer in Germany as an S2. And there was a soldier that I had at the time, brand new E3, probably maybe 6 months out of AIT. He wanted to go to Special Forces selection, and his runtime was horrendous. It was bad. He was barely passing for his age bracket. And I told him, I said, okay, I can help you, but it's going to be using methods that you're not familiar with, that the Army hasn't taught you, but you have to be willing to trust that I'm going to show you the way. So going to the push concept of being able to push somebody towards doing the things that in the end will be good for them. We used a lot of weightlifting training on the leg press to get his muscles stronger. And I told him, I said, give me 30 days. If you don't drop your runtime by at least a minute, then we know we have to try something else. At the end of that, it was 1 minute and 26 seconds that he dropped off his runtime just by doing that. But here's the thing. That's not really where the payoff was. The payoff was now that he trusted me on other things too. When it came to his primary job of being an intelligence analyst and being a good soldier, he knew that when I gave him guidance, one, that he knew and trusted that it was for the benefit, even if he couldn't see it immediately, he knew that it was going to pay off in the long run. And it did. He ended up getting a coin whenever we went to our CTC rotation, and we did that a major exercise, a certifying event that certifies a unit that they can deploy. he did so well because there was so much responsibility placed on him, and I put a lot of that invested time and effort into training him, that he was able to act and operate autonomous, an E3, being able to do what, you know, a staff sergeant or sergeant first class can do. And that's where you start to see the results, and they start to see the results themselves.
Absolutely. And I've got a ton of examples like that when I was in command and when I was working as a brigade S2X and had soldiers and interrogators that I was coaching and managing of similar nature. And it's something that I learned early on in the military, that every single person has the ability to go from the worst to the best. Every single person has that potential. It takes the right mentorship, guidance, and coaching to take them there. And sometimes it may not be you. Sometimes you may be using the wrong tools. And that's where you come in and you get coaching from somebody that's a little bit higher than you on leadership, that has more tools in their toolkit that can teach them. Right. And keeping that in mind, take out they're just not going to do the work. You know, I can't tell me how many times I've heard that from a manager. They're just not going to do the work. They're not cut out for it. I'm sorry, bro, but if they got their license, writing a policy is not the most challenge. This isn't rocket science. They're not a physicist that works with SpaceX. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is life insurance, and all they got to be able to do is speak, read, and write. And I know people that barely speak that have actually sold policies. This is not, we're not doing something crazy. So like, take the mindset out of like, oh, well, so-and-so just isn't going to get to work. Instead, take accountability and responsibility and say, I'm not able to inspire them to act. What else can I do?
Well, I'll add a piece that's not military, but it's really insurance related. Kev, when I first got into that agency role, how many times did I call you cussing and pissed off every day? Man, these people, blah blah. Kevin would not say a word. He would let me just vent for 20 minutes. And the one thing that, because Kevin and I, when we first interacted, we had a little bit of a rocky start. I didn't understand him. He thought I was an asshole. I thought he was one too, I'm sure. But it was funny because it was like, all right, so I'm taking over this agency, I'm doing all these things, and I had business management. I've been doing that for years, from entrepreneurial standpoint. But it was a 1 or 2 man show. You went in, there was problems, I gave solutions, corrected it, boom, got paid, moved on. And from a consultant perspective, well, this was a whole new world because I couldn't hedge people's positions. So I couldn't have positional power. And I did not understand that. And I was ready to just throw my hands in the air. But the one thing that really honestly shifted, my perspective on Kevin was he literally was like, he was taking time. What was it, like every other day? I think we were scheduled at 3:00.
Mm-hmm.
To literally pick up the phone to just hear me just tear into him, like just pissed off at the world and this and that. And the one thing that changed it, Kev goes every single time, okay, I hear you. What can I do to help you? It was never, well, it's your fault. It's but what can I help you to help with this scenario? And that changed my entire perspective across the board, because initially it was, oh, well, Kevin put me in this position and it's a cracked egg. I'm trying to put it together. It's a shattered vase. I'm trying to glue it back together, whatever. And it was through all of that, weeding through everything, all the problems and knickknacks, this and that. I honestly was like, I don't know how the hell he was able to even manage it, because he was doing 2 jobs at once. But now his support and, leaning on him in the background, that was a huge shift for me. But yeah, it really comes down to you spend time on the people that invest their time themselves. One of the key things of what we do is, invest your time to earn mine. But in the same regard, some people will hear that and do it automatically. And they'll understand that concept depending on what their, experience is in life or where they come from, whatever. But the general population is just like, why aren't you helping me? Well, did you ask me for help? No. Well, you should have read my mind. Okay, well, let's play that game now. And that's literally kind of how it goes. And so it's really kind of taken, a shift, and it's like, if you want to work, well, I'm absolutely here to do everything I can to help. If I've had success, and that's part leading from the front. If you're having success or you've had it and you've had success duplicating yourself, any new agent coming in should want to learn. The reason why I ended up, working with you, Greg, was doing it on my own for, 6-8 months. And I had to learn the hard way. My upline was non-existent, never answered the phone. I got no help. And then I saw this video. Oh, Greg sold this much in 1 month. I said, man, I could do that. I was like, I was always the best at whatever I did. So I reached out, and that's how, and that's the perspective. It's like, but if you have to have that open mindset. And if you close yourself off, it won't work.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys coming on and just shooting it on some leadership topics. Again, if you guys, like this conversation, for all the audience that are watching this, if you like this conversation and you want to actually watch that training, it is a fantastic leadership training. You can see it on my Vimeo, or you can see it on the Delta Financial Life website under the leadership tab. If you got any value from this, I ask a favor of all of you. I need your help in growing this message and this channel. So we grow by word of mouth, organically only. I do not put ads or any kind of revenue into this. And I want to provide value to all the agents in the industry in order to help them to get better in their leadership and in their sales and their mindset overall. And so if you could take 60 seconds, rate, review, and subscribe and share the content, I would be eternally grateful. I would appreciate it. And then it would help me to continue to provide value to multiple people. And you never know who you might inspire just by sharing this content, right? So this has been the Be the Difference podcast. As always, I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, we'll see you later. Deuces. Take care.